Have you ever imagined being born not out of love, but out of necessity? Not under the sky, but in a sterile laboratory incubator, surrounded not by a mother's warmth, but the cold hum of fluorescent lights. Your first breath is not celebrated, it's monitored. Your body, not cradled, but examined. You are not held, you are handled with gloves. You are not named, you are numbered, tagged, tracked, categorized. You will never know a natural childhood. No dirt beneath your feet, no nest to call your own, no sunlight, no breeze, no stars, because you were never meant to live, only to serve. Welcome to the life of a lab rat. A creature engineered not by nature but by protocol. You are born inside a controlled breeding facility. Your genetics selected for uniformity, because sameness makes the data cleaner, more predictable, more profitable. At just a few weeks old, you're separated from your litter, not for play, but for procedure. And every day of your short life is an experiment. Your food intake is measured, your stress response is observed, your pain tolerance is pushed again and again. You may be forced to inhale chemicals to test their toxicity. You may be injected with substances to see how much you can endure. You might be born with a gene deliberately altered to make you sicker, weaker, more useful, and all of it is called necessary, for science, for medicine, for humanity. But no one asked you. No one asked if you wanted to help find a cure, if you wanted to suffer for the comfort of others, if you even wanted to exist. Because in this world, you're not a being. You're a tool. And when you're no longer useful, when your data is collected and your usefulness exhausted, you are disposed of, quietly, without ceremony. No grave, no farewell, just a checkbox ticked, a file closed, another test subject gone. They never chose this life. They never had the chance, and yet they live it every single day. Lab rats aren't really born, they are engineered, genetically sculpted not by evolution but by design, stripped of color, stripped of strength, stripped of defenses, crafted to be blind, to be albino, to be weak, not for their benefit, but for ours. Albino strains, like the famous Wistar or Sprague Dawley, aren't accidents of nature. They are calculated results, bred for predictability, for docility, for submission. Their white fur makes bruising easier to observe. Their pink eyes, sensitive to light, make them less likely to explore, less likely to fight. Their uniformity makes experiments cleaner, more repeatable, more convenient. These aren't survivors. They're designed to fail, to get sick faster, to react more, to die sooner. They aren't the children of mothers. They're units. Conceived in sterile breeding chambers, cataloged before they even breathe, with litters produced like inventory, each tiny body pre-marked for a different fate. Some will be fed toxins, some will grow tumors, some will live their entire lives in cages so small they'll never know what it means to stretch. They won't be hugged, or groomed, or comforted. Because from day one, the world doesn't see them as alive, only as measurable. Not mammals, just metrics, just baseline readings and control groups. They are data points with pulses, nothing more. And when they stop being useful, they stop being anything at all. There is no sunrise in a lab, no morning dew, no soft golden light pouring through leaves, only fluorescent bulbs, unblinking, unchanging, buzzing softly like an artificial sky that never sets. There is no night, just silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, sterile quiet that hums between machines and clings to metal walls. Every day is the same. Plastic, steel, glass. The air reeks of disinfectant, a constant reminder that nothing organic is welcome here, except the ones being tested. The rats don't know words, but they feel fear. Not the kind that explodes, the kind that lingers, settles into their tiny bones, a kind of quiet panic they carry in every breath, every twitch of their whiskers. Because in this place, they can sense it. The patterns, the footsteps, the shadows that always lead to pain. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to burrow, no scent of earth, no sound of wind. Only the hum of air vents and the occasional squeak of a cage door. No breeze, no warmth, no mother, no comfort. Only the cold hands of strangers. Hands that never pet, never hold with love, only restrain. Hands that bring needles, blades, burns, and pills. And every time the latch clicks open, something inside them flinches, even if they've never seen it happen. Because they know. Somehow they always know. This is not a home. This is not a life. This is a sentence. Today, a shot. It begins with the metallic creak of the cage door. A gloved hand reaches in, practiced, impersonal. The rat is restrained in a clear plastic tube, its body pressed still, its limbs unable to move. A small patch of fur is shaved, the skin is wiped with alcohol, cold and sharp. Then comes the needle, intraperitoneal injection, into the abdomen. Sometimes it's saline, sometimes it's an irritant, sometimes it burns. There is no scream, only a twitch, a quick shiver in the whiskers, a freeze in the eyes. Tomorrow, poison. Measured drops of chemical compounds forced down the throat through a gavage tube, a thin plastic pipe inserted past the mouth into the esophagus. The tube scrapes against the inner lining. It can cause coughing, gagging, internal bleeding. But this is the protocol, to test toxicity, to determine at what dosage the liver begins to fail, at what dosage the kidneys shut down, at what dosage life ends. The day after, surgery. Anesthesia maybe, but not always, depending on the regulations, depending on the country, depending on the budget. Scalpels slice open the tiny abdomen. Organs are exposed, sometimes removed, sometimes infected on purpose. The rat is kept alive, for observation, to see how it reacts, to log the suffering. They monitor inflammation, chart behavioral changes, record how many hours it takes before the body gives up. And all this, without consent, without understanding, because the rat can't say no, can't plead, can't fight back. Its world is made of plastic and stainless steel. It has never dug a burrow, never climbed a tree root, never even touched soil. Every part of it, from its twitching tail to its fragile lungs, belongs to the system. Owned, documented, numbered. On the cage is a label. Subject 541A. Sex, male. Weight, 241 grams. Purpose, toxicology study. Group B. Nothing else. No name, no story. And the worst part, it doesn't know why. It doesn't know what the white coats are looking for. It doesn't know what the clipboard means. It only knows that pain always comes, like a storm without clouds, sudden, inevitable. And no one ever comes to stop it. Rats can scream, but not in the way we expect. Not like dogs, not like humans. Their cries are ultrasonic, frequencies so high-pitched they pierce through silence, yet fall completely outside the range of human hearing. They do scream, but we don't hear it. We're not built to. Or maybe we were never meant to. Because if we could hear them, really hear them, we might stop. When the anesthesia wears off too soon, when the dosage isn't enough for the size of the wound, when the scalpel slips just a little too deep, they scream. Their tiny bodies tense, limbs twitch in restrained agony, eyes go wide, hearts race. But the lab stays silent. Monitors beep, papers shuffle, nothing stops. Because no one hears. Or maybe no one wants to. Because to hear them is to recognize them, to acknowledge fear, to see suffering. And if you recognize suffering, you have to ask why it's allowed to happen. And that question brings guilt. Real, raw, unbearable guilt. It's easier to call them test subjects, to think of them as data points, not living, breathing creatures with nervous systems wired to feel just like ours. It's easier not to listen, not to care. Because once you feel their pain, you can't unfeel it. And in science, guilt gets in the way of results. They will never be free. Never run through grass damp with morning dew. Never feel the sun warming their fur as they burrow under leaves or hide beneath roots. They will never know what it means to choose a direction, to follow a scent out of curiosity, not because it's been baited with sugar water and laced with wires. They will never chase anything, except the walls of a maze built not for wonder but to measure despair. Corridors of plastic and plexiglass, dead ends designed to study confusion, pathways laid out to test how long it takes before hope gives out. Their reward for solving the puzzle? A statistic, a note in a margin. Sometimes, another test. The only sky they know is a ceiling, flecked with dust, buzzing with fluorescent light that never dims, never sleeps. The only nature is the sterile bedding beneath them, wood shavings or paper pulp replaced every few days, not out of kindness, but for cleanliness, for the data. No rain, no fresh air, no soil under their paws, no wind brushing their fur. Even their footsteps make no sound, because the cage doesn't echo, nothing does. They live in a world designed for silence. Silence of voice, silence of will, silence of choice. And they will die without ever knowing what it means to truly be alive. Lab rats don't retire. There's no grassy field waiting for them, no gentle hand placing them into a better home, no thank you for a lifetime of unwilling service. They don't grow old in peace. Their bones may ache, their vision may blur, but time is not what ends their story. They don't pass quietly in sleep, not under a soft blanket, not surrounded by anything that even resembles love. They are killed, efficiently, silently, because their usefulness has run out, because the experiment is over, because the results have been logged and the next batch is already being born. Sometimes it's gas, sometimes a cervical dislocation, a sharp twist of the neck, sometimes one last injection, not to treat but to end, one last entry, a scribbled line on a form, a checkbox ticked, euthanized, yes. One final moment, heartbeat slowing, eyes still open, body limp in a gloved hand, and then nothing. No gravestone, no name, no memory, just an empty cage to be cleaned, prepared, and filled again. Because in the world of the lab, there is no mourning, only rotation, only repetition, only the next. No statues, no plaques with dates and names, no solemn gardens built in their memory, no memorials, no moments of silence, no words like hero or sacrifice. And yet, how many lives have been saved because of them? How many children didn't die from polio? How many parents lived longer because of insulin? How many pandemics were softened by vaccines tested on backs that never had a choice? All of it. The pills in our cabinets, the treatments in our hospitals, the medical breakthroughs that shaped modern life, born from suffering. From tiny, fragile creatures who lived and died in silence, who never even got a name. They were not volunteers, they were not soldiers, but they fought a war against death and disease on our behalf. And they lost. They were never thanked, never celebrated, rarely even noticed. But they were there, in the background, in the shadows of every discovery, every test, every trial, every cure. They paid the price, so we wouldn't have to. And perhaps the cruelest part of all is not that they suffered, not even that they died, but that they were forgotten. Most people will never see a lab rat. Not really. They'll see charts, results, papers with big words and small footnotes, but not the eyes, not the shaking, not the quiet stillness after the tests are done. We walk through a world shaped by their pain, healthier, stronger, protected. And yet, not once do we look back. Not once do we ask, was it worth it? We call it progress. We call it necessary. We wrap it in ethics and approval boards. We measure suffering in milligrams and minutes, but behind every breakthrough is a life that ended in silence. So maybe, just maybe, before we move on, before we celebrate what we've cured, we pause, even just for a moment. Not to undo the past, not to erase the cost, but to acknowledge it, to see them. The ones with no names, no voice, no gravestone. The ones who were born in boxes and died for people who never knew they existed. They never asked to help us, but they did. And that should mean something.